Ladies, let's be real. Some men will do anything to get what they want, even if it means hiding the fact that they are already in a relationship or worse, married. And while not every man is dishonest, there are too many out here playing games, leading women on while living a double life. The worst part, many women don't find out until they're already emotionally invested. But here's the truth. A man who is taken will always reveal himself. His actions, his patterns, and even the little things he says will tell you everything you need to know. The problem is, too often women ignore the signs, they make excuses, give the benefit of the doubt, or assume he just has bad communication. But when a man is truly single and emotionally available, you won't have to wonder. So today I'm going to break down 7 major signs that a man is already in a relationship or even married. If you see these red flags, don't ignore them. Protect your heart, protect your time, and walk away from any situation that does not serve you. When a man is truly single and genuinely interested in you, he will have no problem making plans, being consistent with his communication, and showing up in a predictable way. But when a man is already in a relationship or married, his schedule will always seem mysterious. He might only be available at odd hours, texting and calling inconsistently, or disappearing for long stretches of time with little to no explanation. This is because he is trying to manage 2 different lives, and he has to be careful about when and how he engages with you. One of the biggest signs that something is off is if he avoids making solid plans. Instead of committing to a date in advance, he always prefers to be spontaneous or last minute. He may say things like, let's just play it by ear, or I'll let you know when I'm free. This isn't because he's busy with work or personal responsibilities. It's because he doesn't want to make a commitment he may not be able to keep without raising suspicion in his real relationship. A man who is truly available will prioritize spending time with you and will not hesitate to plan ahead. Another major red flag is if he has very specific windows of availability. Maybe he only calls during his work breaks, but never in the evenings. Maybe he texts frequently when he's out of town, but barely responds when he's home. If weekends seem impossible for him to meet up, or if he consistently dodges plans that require him to be out in public for too long, he could be hiding something. A man who is already in a relationship has to carefully manage his time so that his absence isn't noticed by the woman he's truly committed to. Pay attention to the excuses he gives when he cancels or avoids making plans. If he frequently blames work, last-minute emergencies, or vague obligations, this could be a cover-up. A man who is juggling another relationship has to be strategic about how he explains his schedule. He might say he's always busy with work, but somehow he still finds time for you at odd hours when it's convenient for him. A taken man will also avoid spontaneous calls or FaceTiming. If you try to call him unexpectedly and he never answers or always calls you back later, it could be because he's with someone else. He may say he doesn't like talking on the phone or that he's not big on video calls, but in reality, he's avoiding getting caught. A single man who is truly invested in you will have no problem picking up your call at any time. A man who is genuinely single and interested in you will have no issue inviting you into his personal space. He will want to spend time with you in his home, make you feel comfortable, and show you that there is nothing to hide. But when a man is already in a relationship or married, bringing you to his place becomes a risk he cannot afford to take. He knows that doing so could expose the truth about his real situation, so he will avoid it at all costs. One of the biggest red flags is if he always insists on meeting at your place, a hotel, or neutral locations like restaurants or coffee shops. While it's normal for a man to want to spend time outside of his home sometimes, if he consistently avoids having you over, something is off. He might tell you that his place is a mess, that he's in the process of moving, or that he prefers to hang out somewhere else because it's more fun. These are excuses. A man who is single will not have an issue bringing you to where he lives, especially after you've been dating for a while. Another sign to watch for is if he avoids talking about where he lives or giving you details about his home. If you ask him about his living situation and he keeps his answers vague, That's a sign he might be hiding something. He may say he has roommates that don't like guests, that his place is too small, or that it's just not a good time to invite you over. While any of these reasons could be true in isolated cases, when combined with other suspicious behavior, they become warning signs. A man who is in a relationship may also keep his home situation a mystery because there are visible signs of another woman living there: clothing, toiletries, or even family pictures. Pay attention to how he reacts if you bring up the idea of stopping by unexpectedly. If he gets defensive, makes excuses, or suddenly changes the subject, that's a major red flag. A man who is truly single will not have an issue with a last minute visit, even if his place isn't perfect. But a man who is hiding something will do everything possible to keep you from seeing where he lives. If you've been dating for months and have never once been to his home, that is not normal. A man who sees a future with you will want to integrate you into his life, and that includes his personal space. If he keeps his home completely off limits, there is a high chance that someone else is already living there with him. A man's phone can tell you a lot about his honesty and intentions. When a man is truly single and has nothing to hide, he won't be overly protective of his phone. He won't panic if you glance at it while it's sitting on the table, and he won't feel the need to keep it out of sight at all times. But when a man is already in a relationship or married, his phone becomes his biggest liability. He knows that one wrong notification, one unexpected call, or one misplaced message could expose the truth. That's why he will go to great lengths to make sure you never get too close to it. One of the biggest red flags is if he always keeps his phone face down. If he consistently places it screen side down whenever you're together, that's a sign he doesn't want you to see who's calling or texting him. He might say it's just a habit or that he's trying to be present with you, but in reality, he's making sure you don't catch a glimpse of anything that could reveal the truth. A man who is single and honest won't feel the need to hide his screen every time he's with you. Another warning sign is if he never answers calls or texts in front of you. If his phone rings and he suddenly gets quiet, steps away, or says he'll call them back later, that's suspicious. A man who is free to talk will have no problem answering his phone in your presence, but a man who is hiding something will be selective about when and how he responds. He may even turn his phone off or put it on airplane mode while you're together so that no unexpected calls come through. Pay attention to how he reacts if you casually touch or pick up his phone. If he immediately tenses up, grabs it back, or gets defensive, that's a problem. A man who has nothing to hide won't be overly protective of his phone. But if he treats it like a top secret device, there's a reason for that. He may even go as far as keeping it locked at all times, changing his passwords frequently, or saying he doesn't let anyone use his phone. While privacy is important in any relationship, extreme secrecy is usually a sign that something isn't right. Another red flag is if he never lets you see his social media or avoids adding you as a friend. If he's active online but refuses to connect with you, it's likely because he's hiding his real relationship from you. A taken man knows that one wrong move online could expose him, so he will do everything he can to keep you from seeing his digital life. If his phone is always off limits, there's a reason for it. Social media has become a window into people's lives. When a man is truly single and serious about you, he won't feel the need to keep your presence in his life a secret. He may not be the type to post every detail of his personal life, but he won't go out of his way to hide you either. However, when a man is already in a relationship or married, social media becomes something he has to carefully manage. He knows that one post, one comment, or one tag could expose the truth. That's why he will be very intentional about keeping you off his platforms. Another warning sign is if he avoids taking pictures with you altogether. If you try to snap a quick photo and he immediately pulls away, turns his head, or makes a joke about not being photogenic, that's a sign he doesn't want any proof of your time together. A taken man is always thinking ahead. He knows that a picture could lead to questions, and questions could lead to exposure. If a man is truly available, he won't be afraid to take a picture with you. Pay attention to how he interacts with you on social media. If he never likes or comments on your posts, but is active everywhere else, that's a problem. A taken man will avoid any online interaction that could make people start asking questions. He might even refuse to follow you at all or make excuses about why he doesn't use social media like that. But if he's following plenty of other people, posting stories and engaging online, but completely ignoring your presence, that's a sign he's hiding something. Another red flag is if he becomes nervous when you tag him in a post or comment about him publicly. If he immediately untags himself, asks you to take something down, or acts uncomfortable about it, he's likely trying to avoid being seen by someone who knows the truth. A man who is genuinely single won't be worried about being tagged or acknowledged online. If he goes out of his way to keep his social media life separate from you, there's a reason for it. When a man is truly single and serious about you, he will want to share details about his life. He will naturally open up about his daily routine, his family, his work, and his interests. He won't feel the need to hide basic aspects of who he is because he has nothing to cover up. However, when a man is already in a relationship or married, he will be very careful about what he shares. He knows that giving too much information increases the chances of slipping up, so he will keep things vague and avoid giving real details about his personal life. One of the biggest red flags is if he talks in general terms but never gets specific. He might say he had a busy day but won't tell you what he was actually doing. He might mention his job but never go into detail about what he does on a daily basis. He may talk about his family but never really tell you about them, show you pictures, or invite you to meet them. A man who is genuinely single and invested in you will want to connect with you on a deeper level, but a man who is hiding something will keep his answers short, avoid direct questions, and steer the conversation away from anything too personal. Another warning sign is if his stories don't always add up. Maybe he told you last week that he was out of town for work, but this week he slips up and mentions something that contradicts that. Maybe he claims to live alone, but accidentally mentions we when talking about something at home. These little inconsistencies might not seem like a big deal at first, but when they start adding up, it's often because he is trying to manage two different stories. A man who is honest and open won't have to constantly watch what he says because the truth is easy to remember. Pay attention to how he reacts when you ask deeper questions. If he gets defensive, changes the subject, or suddenly acts irritated, that's a sign that he doesn't want to talk about it. A man who has nothing to hide will answer simple questions without hesitation. But a man who is already in a relationship will feel like every question is a trap. So he will do his best to keep things as surface level as possible. Another red flag is if he avoids talking about his future. A man who is truly available and interested in you will talk about plans, goals, and things he wants to do together. But a man who is taken knows that he can't build a future with you, so he will keep things focused on the present. If he never discusses long-term plans or avoids questions about where things are going, it's likely because he has another relationship that he's not telling you about. A man who is truly single and serious about you will make time for you consistently, including on special occasions. He will want to spend meaningful moments together and celebrate important days with you. But when a man is already in a relationship or married, he won't have that freedom. His priority will always be the woman he's committed to, which means that certain days, holidays, weekends, and special occasions will be completely off limits. One of the biggest red flags is if he suddenly becomes unavailable around major holidays. If he disappears or makes excuses about why he can't see you on Valentine's Day, Christmas, New Year's, or even your birthday, that's a problem. He might say he's visiting family, traveling for work, or dealing with personal issues, but pay attention to the pattern. A man who is genuinely single will want to be with you on those days, or at the very least, make the effort to celebrate with you in some way. A man who is already taken, however, has another person to spend those special moments with, and you won't be his priority. Another warning sign is if weekends are always difficult for him to make plans. Maybe he's available during the week, but suddenly too busy when Friday night or Saturday rolls around. Maybe he's great at texting during the day, but goes silent at night. These are signs that he might be with someone else. A man who is in a relationship has to carefully manage his time to avoid suspicion. So weekends, when most couples spend time together, will be off limits for you. Pay attention to how he acts when a major event is coming up. If you invite him to a wedding, a family gathering, or even a simple get together with friends, and he always has an excuse for why he can't make it, that's a sign he's hiding something. A single man who is genuinely interested in you will want to show up for you and be part of your world, but a man who is taken will avoid situations where he might be recognized or have to explain who he really is. Another major red flag is if he disappears without warning and then suddenly reappears with excuses. Maybe he goes completely silent on certain weekends or stops responding to texts around the holidays. Then days later, he resurfaces with a random excuse about being busy or needing space. A man who is genuinely single won't have to keep disappearing. But a man who is already in a relationship has to carefully manage when he can and cannot talk to you. If he's always unavailable during key moments, it's because there's another woman who has that time reserved. Your intuition is one of the most powerful tools you have when it comes to spotting deception. When something feels off in a relationship, it usually is. A man who is truly single and available won't make you feel uneasy or doubtful about where you stand with him. His actions will be consistent and there won't be any gaps in his story. But when a man is already in a relationship or married, you will start to notice little things that don't add up. Your gut will pick up on the inconsistencies, even if your mind tries to rationalize them away. One of the biggest red flags is a lingering feeling that he's hiding something. Maybe you can't quite put your finger on it, but deep down you sense that there's another piece of the puzzle you're not seeing. He might say all the right things, but his actions don't always match up. He might be affectionate and attentive when he's with you, but there are gaps in his availability that don't make sense. Your intuition is telling you to pay attention because something about the situation isn't quite right. Another sign is if you catch yourself making excuses for him. Maybe he disappears for long periods, and instead of questioning it, you tell yourself he must be busy with work. Maybe he never invites you over, and you convince yourself that he's just really private. When you're constantly justifying his behavior instead of feeling secure in the relationship, that's a sign that your intuition is trying to warn you. A man who is fully available will not give you a reason to second guess his intentions. Pay attention to the little inconsistencies that make you feel uneasy. Maybe he told you one thing last week, but this week his story changes slightly. Maybe he avoids answering direct questions or only gives vague responses when you ask about his life. If you notice that something doesn't add up, don't ignore it. A man who is honest and truly single will be open and consistent in his words and actions, but a man who is hiding another relationship will always have to adjust his story to keep from slipping up. Your body also reacts when something is off. If you feel anxious, restless, or uneasy after spending time with him, don't dismiss those feelings. Your emotions are responding to something real, even if your mind hasn't fully figured it out yet. When you're with a man who is genuinely single and available, you will feel at peace. You won't have to question his actions or wonder where you stand. But when something feels off and your intuition keeps sending you signals, it's important to listen. At the end of the day, a man who is single, available, and genuinely interested in you will be consistent, open, and transparent. You won't have to chase him, second guess him, or wonder if he's hiding something. But when a man is already taken, the signs will always be there. The question is, will you pay attention?